Well, hello again, everybody. It's Burt here, and I'm going to talk to you today about major seventh chords. Major seventh chord is the seventh note of the scale added to the triad. So if I take my F scale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, major seventh. The actual seventh note, just a half tone below the root. It's a great sounding chord. You have to kind of get a little used to it because there's a little tension. If I take the third and the fifth out, you can hear a bit of a bite. And if I were to invert it and put the root up here, well, it's the interval of a minor second, and that is quite a dissonant. But let's go back to root position. Put the third, put the fifth in. Makes the chord sound quite nice, so not a problem at all. We do not want to get the major seventh chord confused with the seventh chord, which we've discussed in a previous video. Remember, a seventh is found a whole tone below the root. It's not the actual seventh note of the scale. And that is a very active chord, calls for a resolution, wants to go somewhere else. Major seven, like the six, is very passive. In fact, they can switch back and forth from one to the other without any problem. You may have heard something like this. Here and work it with another note and do an in-between note. Major seventh, six, used all the time. Major seventh chords do have a problem upon inversion, and that's because if I take my root and put it into a first inversion with 3, 5, major 7, 1, I'm putting a root above its own major seven. Not a good idea at all. Even if I were to take that root and put it up here, still not going to work. It's major 7, C major 7 in root position, put it into a first inversion. Doesn't really make it. And if I take the C, put it up here, still doesn't cut it. So you want to avoid first inversions of a major seventh chord. Third inversions also have a bit of a problem because I'm taking the major 7 and putting it down below the root. Again, you've got that sharp dissonance. So a third inversion usually isn't a very good idea, but there are occasions when we do use that, and I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So for the time being, I would just be avoiding first and third inversions. Second inversions are quite interesting. Here's my fifth, my root, and my third, major seventh, a half a tone below the root, the actual seventh note of the scale. Yes, there's a dissonance there, but it's buried in the chord. If I put an F down here, well, composers have done a lot with that chord over the years. So that's basically the story of the major seventh. Now I mentioned about the third inversion. You may see lead sheet music that says an F chord, an F/E. Of course, we know that the E is the major seventh, and we know that anything after a slash says that it should be in the bass. Well, they certainly don't mean for you to do that. What they're trying to tell you is let the root fall through its own major seventh, and it's probably on its way down to the next note down. So that's called a passing major seventh. We can also, of course, have a passing seventh, but that normally takes you to a dominant version of the sixth chord. So if I were to play a C chord, pass through the seventh, instead of A minor, most likely it would be taking you to A7. The major seventh will take you to the minor form. The seventh, the dominant seventh, will take you to the major dominant form of the A chord. So that's basically it on the major seventh chords. First inversions, third inversions are a little tricky. Second inversions seem to work out fine. root position seems to be best. Great ending chord rather than ending on a 6, where I would go say something like it's my 6. Don't have a choice with the major 7 there because I'm using the root as the melody. Here I'm going to change it, get off my tonic note, practically any other note will work, and use the major 7th instead. That's my major 7th. Have a great day, and hope you enjoyed the little tutorial on major 7th chords. Bye for now.